Adam from Stockwell Safety here, and in this video I'm going to go through a few tactics with you to help you stay the course when it comes to your studying. So when it comes to motivation, what you'll probably experience is that when you initially begin your studying towards your qualification, you might find that your initial motivation levels are quite high because you're on a path of self-development, and you're probably excited about getting started, learning about whatever it is that your qualification is to do with and the career progression that's involved in that. So, but the thing is that level of motivation, unfortunately, is not going to last. It is going to wane over time, and that's not anything to be feeling bad about. I think it happens to just about everybody that is studying for, a demanding qualification, that the motivation levels will gradually taper off. Focus on discipline instead. Now, I know we've probably used motivation in the title of this video. That's only because that's the natural language people tend to use. Is they think about, well, how can I maintain my motivation to study? People don't necessarily think of, well, how can I maintain my self-discipline to help me to stick to my study schedule? But actually, discipline is the thing to focus on, because motivation will let you down. Motivation is not always going to be there, so you can't always be motivated, but you can always be disciplined. Discipline, specifically self-discipline, is much more reliable. So focus on being disciplined rather than waiting to feel motivated. Discipline beats motivation as a tactic, but also consistency will always beat intensity. Long-term consistency will beat short-term intensity. So to help you get that consistency in place, what I would recommend is set out a study schedule. So look at when your exam is, then figure out how many hours of studying you've got to put in between now and then on a weekly basis, schedule in your study sessions, taking care to consider all of your other responsibilities. So if you've got the full range of adult responsibilities, childcare, full-time employment, looking after your own health and fitness, etc., take those into account. So there might be some days that you know in advance that you're not going to be able to study. For the days where you are able to study and you've scheduled that in, now comes the test of discipline. Is if you are scheduled for a study session, you must do that study session. You must fulfill the intention that you've set for that day. If you're scheduled to study for 2 hours that day, you've got to do it. A way of doing this is to identify and eliminate any areas of friction. Friction is something that gets in the way of you starting a study session. In a lot of cases, all you need to do is get started. That's the hardest part, is just getting started. Once you're started, once you've got going, after a few minutes, it becomes self-sustaining. It's just that initial push to get started. So remove any friction points that prevent you from getting started. I'll give you an example from personal experience. I mean, I'm not studying presently for any particular qualification, but I do need to maintain discipline for things like producing these videos. Some of these friction points for me were where my workspace is I work from home when I'm not traveling to client sites and I'm not on site with a client. I'm home based, and my workspace is right at the top of the house, and I have to climb up two sets of stairs to get here. And there would be times when I'd be downstairs and I'd need to do something or I'd have to get something done on the laptop, but the laptop was up here. And as pathetic as that sounds, that was enough of a friction point for me to sort of put it off until later. I sort of said to myself, I'll do it later when I happen to be up in the office. So to remove that friction point, all I simply did was made it a habit for myself that whenever I'm leaving the office, I'll quickly grab my laptop, slip it into my folder, and then take it with me wherever I was going. So this folder with my laptop in it, that basically goes with me everywhere. Another example would be the setting the camera up. So what I used to do, I used to use one of these. What I was finding was it was a pain, because you had to get out the bag, set it up, get the height right, get the camera angle right. It was another friction point. Now what I do is I've literally got something, you can't see it because it's in use right now, but it's just a camera stand that literally clamps onto the desk, and it's got this flexible sort of bracket that I put the camera on, and it's permanently set up. It never comes away from the desk, so it's always ready. So is the microphone. That was another friction point for me. I should get a wireless microphone really, but at the moment I've got this massive lead that no matter how careful you are with these things, they get tangled up. And again, it was a friction point for me that I was always having to get this damn thing untangled, plug it into this camera that I'd already spent X amount of minutes setting up. It was just several friction points compounding on each other. So what I do nowadays is the camera is again permanently set up with the microphone ready to go. So all of these friction points together were kind of getting in the way, so I removed them. So my advice to you is to think about, and these might fly under the radar, these friction points, so you might not be aware that they're even there until you start actually thinking about them and turning your attention to them. So to do that, be alert for any repetitive tasks or situations that cause you stress or cause you to not get cracking on what you need to do. Identify them and do what you can to eliminate them from your process. The next sort of tactic, it's based on the principle of you can't manage what you don't measure. And so keep a track of when you successfully completed your study schedule for a particular day. There are lots of habit trackers that you can get, apps for your phone that can do this, but one of the most simple ones is just a simple calendar where if you did successfully complete a study session as scheduled, then you just simply mark that off with a big cross on the calendar. Do that for every day that you successfully complete the scheduled study session. And then before long, obviously, you're going to have a string of days where you successfully completed the study session. And it's such a simple thing, but it's very effective. That can be highly motivating to not want to break that chain. So once you've got a few days in the row, you're building a habit here. You're building a consistent habit. And as I said before, consistency will always beat intensity. The last point is, don't neglect the basics. What I mean by that is you'll have probably heard this before, but the trifecta of proper sleep, proper exercise, proper nutrition. Make sure those three things are in place. So in regards to sleep, research says that most people need between sort of 7 and 8 hours of sleep per night. Don't use the fact that you're studying for a qualification as an excuse to shortchange yourself in this department. It's not going to work, because your effectiveness, if you're in sleep debt, which is to say that you've allowed yourself to go short on sleep for a prolonged period, that's going to start to impact on your levels of concentration and productivity. So in terms of exercise, If you are already someone who takes regular exercise, make sure that again you're not using your studying as an excuse to start cutting back on that exercise regime. Maintain that, because it's actually helping you. It's going to be helping you get the sleep that you need. It's going to be helping you to stay alert and awake. If you're not currently someone that partakes of regular exercise, now would be a good time to start, as long as you keep it nice and gentle. Don't go all in on a full hardcore exercise regime if you're not used to it. Now's not the time to start that kind of thing, but you can at least take some gentle exercise like walking, just to get the heart rate up. Again, you will find that that pays dividends in terms of your ability to focus and concentrate. And then the third thing is your diet. Make sure you're not snacking on inappropriate food sources. Concentration levels are gonna be affected, and so are your motivation levels, your ability to apply the discipline that you need to apply. If you're already feeling sluggish because of the garbage that you've eaten that particular day, it just becomes harder to summon the minerals that you need to summon to get the work done that you know you need to get done. So make sure your sleep is in order, your diet is in order, and that you're taking regular exercise. So those are my tips. Hope you found them helpful, and I'll see you next time. I hope you've got some value out of the video that you've just seen. If so, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to the channel so that you can be alerted to when we produce and upload more videos.